It seems to me that Israel and the lobby have something on him. He has zero maneuver room. They may have very embarrassing material on him that he just absolutely does not want in the public domain. I mean, think about the Jeffrey Epstein files. They're incredibly ruthless, and they believe that Israel's survival is at stake here.
John Mearsheimer just revealed the truth about Israel's blackmail of Trump, and in this clip discusses this and how it relates to both the Epstein files cover-up and the new plan for potential peace in Gaza. Why Trump is being pulled in the direction of Israel. Mearsheimer thinks it might be blackmail. Let's check out what he has to say about this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
The Donald Trump, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, Benjamin Netanyahu Gaza peace plan with Tony Blair as the neo-colonial governor general of, I realize I'm putting a little spin on this, governor general of Gaza. I mean, you couldn't make this up. What a cast of characters. How is this going to play out beyond the announcement the other day?
Well, it's a terrible plan. I mean, that's the first thing that we should emphasize. Basically, what happened here is that the Trump administration came up with a plan, and then the Israelis vetted it. Netanyahu himself and Ron Derner, who is one of his principal assistants, worked with two super Zionists, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, to fashion the plan so that it would be satisfactory to Benjamin Netanyahu, so that he could say after his meeting with the president that he was on board. He was on board, of course, because he helped write the plan. It was an Israeli-American plan. And of course, what role did Hamas play in crafting this 20-point plan? The answer is zero. And they were presented with a fait accompli, and President Trump told them they had 3 or 4 days to make up their mind, or all hell would break loose. So if you just look at the whole process, you sort of wonder, is this really the way to design and execute a peace process? And the answer is almost certainly no. Then you look at the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. That is how it happened. And if anything, it's more nefarious than Mearsheimer characterizes here, because Arab leaders actually chimed in their thoughts into this thing. And then after the fact, the U.S. worked with Netanyahu and the Israeli regime to alter the deal to their liking and make it obviously more unpalatable to the Arab states, in addition to the Palestinians, which didn't have any input whatsoever. This really reminds me of Star Wars, and here's why. This reminds me of this scene in particular.
Calrissian, take the princess and the Wookiee to my ship.
You said they'd be left in the city under my supervision.
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
That's exactly what we have here, an alteration of the deal by the Zionist U.S. alliance, looking the other way at this genocide and putting forth a deal that does not create a Palestinian state, doesn't usher in peace, and even opens the door to potential U.S. soldiers there.
Just a number of points here. First of all, the Palestinians have to give up all 48 of the hostages. Quite a few of them are dead, by the way. But they have to give up all the hostages within the first 72 hours. And everybody knows the hostages are the only leverage that the Hamas fighters have. So they have to give up their only leverage in the first 72 hours. Then they have to completely disarm. Hamas has to completely disarm to the point where it even destroys all of its tunnels. So it's defenseless. Then the Israelis don't withdraw immediately. They withdraw in phases. And that means that they'll stop, probably at phase 2, certainly at phase 3. But even in the end, if they do withdraw, they don't withdraw completely from Gaza. They're on the perimeter. So those are the first 3 points that favor the Israelis. But then you get to the really important stuff, which is the politics. First of all, there's no end game here. There's no horizon. Right. And the 20th point, if you look at it carefully, remember, it's a 20-point document. The 20th point talks about the political horizon, says there's no political horizon and says that we're going to have discussion on what the political horizon is. This means the Palestinians are not going to get a state of their own. And of course, Netanyahu has made it clear after his meeting with Trump, they're not getting a state of their own. Well, if they're not getting a state of their own, what are they getting? There's no answer there.
There is an answer there, and it's literally nothing. This is an agreement that's being put in their laps, and you just have to take it or leave it, according to the regime, right? You know, we want these hostages back. No, you don't. You don't want the hostages back. You could have exchanged those hostages during the ceasefire, but Netanyahu violated the ceasefire before the return of the hostages, and he murdered negotiators for the hostages in Doha just 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was. So yeah, this plan is one-sided. It's not something that will be palatable to the Palestinians. I'd be shocked if Hamas agrees to this by any stretch of the imagination. Why would you? There's being a genocide conducted against you with no win condition for you but utter capitulation, the giving up of arms, increased subjugation, and probably annexation of that territory regardless of what Israel says. Because I checked their track record. They lie and they murder and they assassinate.
And then there's the whole question of political control, self-determination. What happens inside of Gaza once the shooting stops? Who's in control? And the answer is not the Palestinians. The answer is that you're going to bring in some Arab armies and Tony Blair and so forth and so on. And President Trump himself, he's going to be the head of the so-called Board of Peace. And they're going to run Gaza, right? And then at some point, after they finish training the Palestinian Authority could take control. This is the first time the Palestinians get to control their own fate. And it's somewhere in the distant future. But notice who is determining which Palestinians will run the place. We are. We've determined that it's the Palestinian Authority, which has zero legitimacy among the Palestinian population. And we're going to train it up so it does what we want.
Just like they tried to train the provisional government in Iraq to do what the U.S. wanted. It's just a total disaster. No time horizon for a potential Palestinian state, taken out of the agreement completely. Benjamin Netanyahu boasted about how there's no provision for a Palestinian state. He's staked his entire political career on this. And if that's not enough, the worst part of this thing is opening up the door to peacekeeping forces from the United States. That's right. They want your boots on the ground. They want American boots on the ground in Israel, serving Israel's genocide and Israel's wars at the expense of us, at the expense of the taxpayer. I say enough is enough. We should not accept this. No one should accept this, including supporters of Trump. It's absurd. It's not America first, it's Israel first.
And then it is going to be put in charge. This is neo-colonialism. This is hard to believe.
So Tony Blair, who used to live at number 10 Downing Street, is he now going to live in Gaza City?
I wouldn't be surprised if he has a place in Gaza City. He probably won't spend much time there. He'll be flitting around the world doing this and that.
Here's Prime Minister Netanyahu immediately upon landing in Tel Aviv. So he flew from Dulles. He went from the White House to Dulles to Tel Aviv. Here's the first interview we had, not on Israeli television, but on the journalist's mobile phone. And not in English, in Hebrew, but of course we have the translations. Chris, number 11.
Instead of Hamas isolating us, we turned the tables and isolated Hamas. Now the whole world, including the Arab and Muslim world, is pressuring Hamas to accept the conditions we set together with President Trump to release all our hostages, both the living and the fallen. While the IDF remains in most of the Gaza Strip, who would have believed this? After all, everyone kept saying you have to accept Hamas's terms to withdraw everyone. The IDF needs to withdraw, and Hamas can recover and also rehabilitate the Strip. No way, that's not happening. On the contrary. And President Trump added that if Hamas refuses, he will give Israel full backing to complete the military operation to eliminate it. And that's why I think, from every perspective, this was an excellent visit.
Many in the government, there's a question being asked. Did you agree to a Palestinian state?
Absolutely not. It's also not written in the agreement. But one thing we did say is that we will strongly oppose a Palestinian state. President Trump also said that. He said he understands that. He also said at the UN that it would be a huge reward for terror and a danger to the state of Israel.
absurd, countless lies in that. That is true, that it takes off the table a Palestinian state and talks about this ambiguous time horizon in the last point. But the Arab leaders are not supporting this. They're having huge issues with this after it turned out that, like I said, and showed that Star Wars clip as a meme of this situation, the deal was altered by the United States and Israel, as it always is. So I don't think there's widespread support among the Arab nations, even though the US pays off some of those Arab nations, including Egypt and Jordan, just not to go to war with Israel. That's kind of ancillary support for Israel, the fact that the US is turning over our treasury to Arab nations just so they don't go to war with Israel, in addition to all of our aid to Israel in the first place. It's so backward.
IDF remains in most of the Gaza Strip. The agreement does not provide for a Palestinian state. He didn't add this, but he meant in the future. What did he do? Change the terms between the time he left Trump and the time he landed in Tel Aviv?
Well, if you read the document carefully, it comes very close to saying what he said. This is why the document is a disaster. By the way, when various proposals were floating around before this 20-point plan came out, there was a 21-point plan. And the 21st point that disappeared had to do with annexation of the West Bank, where it said in the document that Israel would not annex the West Bank, which of course is a point that President Trump likes to make. But I would note to you, you see no reference to that in the 20-point plan that was issued this past Monday.
Yeah, they don't want that on paper. They don't want that part on paper because that is their aspiration, but they don't want to tip the world off to that. Insiders that follow this know that, but they want the job in Gaza to be complete. They call it mowing the lawn, by the way, the periodic killing and mass slaughter of civilians in Gaza. And, this is an outgrowth of what they call the Dahiya Doctrine, which was applied to Lebanon in their wars versus Lebanon. The idea that, hey, if we kill enough innocent civilians, they'll rise up and overthrow their leaders and their rulers. That literally is their doctrine. This isn't a conspiracy theory. Read up about the Dahiya Doctrine. They tried it in Lebanon and it failed. They're trying it in Gaza now.
Trump said he would stop Netanyahu from annexing the West Bank. How can he do that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he certainly has it within his power, but when you look at what the lobby can do to him, it seems to me that Israel and the lobby have something on him. He has zero maneuver room.
Well, what can they do to him since he doesn't and have to and can't run for re-election?
They may have very embarrassing material on him that he just absolutely does not want in the public domain. I mean, think about the Jeffrey Epstein files. Don't you find it quite remarkable the extent to which the Trump administration and before that the Biden administration went to allow these files out into the open? There has to be lots of material in there that's very damning for a lot of very important people.
If there are pictures of Donald Trump doing something that would be unanswerable if the public saw it, wouldn't the Biden people have gotten that out during the election to help Kamala Harris?
No, because there are probably pictures as well of Democrats who would be devastated or destroyed.
Yeah, I think this is exactly right. I couldn't agree with Mearsheimer more here. How remarkable is it to have, one of the most prestigious minds in U.S. foreign policy at a prestigious U.S. university saying this, by the way, that there's likely blackmail on Trump. And whether or not you think there's blackmail, man, he is under the spell and control of the Israel lobby. We saw that from his first term. But what I will say here to counterbalance this is, Whitney Webb is someone that always says, well, there's not really that much of a reason to blackmail him, or there doesn't seem to be, because he's always been in the pocket of Israel, even since he was, running for president in 2016. So if they have blackmail, it's probably, not a recent thing. It might have applied to times in which they blackmailed him in the past. And you can see that from his first term. He shredded the JCPOA with Iran. He moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, which would in some ways preclude the possibility of a Palestinian state. He pardoned the handler of Jonathan Pollard. He did so many countless other things, signed the Abraham Accords that, showed his allegiance to Israel. We're seeing the same thing happen in this term. But man, I think that's an interesting thing to at least consider, regardless of where you stand on this, if Israel is blackmailing Trump. It seems like he's bought off or blackmailed or just beholden in some way, and there's not really a good explanation for it unless you're just, relinquishing American sovereignty to this foreign country in the Middle East, America's greatest ally. Right. But yeah, I'm with Mearsheimer here.
If the tapes of them were released as well.
Wow.
Again, you want to realize that the Biden administration had zero interest in letting the Epstein files out, and the Trump administration has followed suit.
Totally agree with him on this. This is the classic retort to the idea that, well, the Democrats would have just released this information if it was harmful for Trump. But no, they chose Russiagate as their weapon against Trump and not this. They chose a farce, instead of this, likely because it probably implicated them. This child sex trafficking ring conducted and involving some of the most prominent people in the world by Epstein, likely a Mossad operation or an Israeli intelligence operation where he acted as an access agent or access asset, I should say. I think that's plausible at the very least.
Would the donor class destroy Trump? He's their best friend they've ever had in the White House.
If Trump turned on Israel, they'd go to enormous lengths to destroy him. I find it hard to believe that you even asked that question. That's the way they operate. They're incredibly ruthless, and they believe that Israel's survival is at stake here. Right? It's very important to understand that certainly in the immediate aftermath of October 7th, but even running up to now, I think Israel's supporters outside of Israel and Israel itself is profoundly worried about Israel's future. I mean, its reputation has been destroyed. If you look at public opinion polls, the New York Times has just done a big public opinion poll,
Right.
Gauging where the American public is on Israel. And these have to be frightening numbers for the Israelis and for their supporters. And they'll go to great lengths to do whatever is necessary to protect Israel. So I think if Trump turns on Israel, they'll go after him hammer and tong.
I totally agree. Perfect way to end this clip. Him talking about Israel terrified by this demographic shift. They know it. We know it. We see this happening. It's not just an international phenomenon now where most of the world's countries, have completely turned against Israel in terms of public mentality and those governments' mentality toward Israel, what it's doing, which, by the way, is a genocide. And it's a maniacal streak of warfare against virtually all of Israel's neighbors like Syria and Lebanon and Yemen and Iran, and just bombing Qatar to take out hostage negotiators recently too. They see this for what it is. And I think that provides the best answer for why Israel is acting so erratically. They see this time horizon as closing. It's slipping away. It's a major time constraint for them. The fact that now their benefactors, the American people, the American government, through extortion from us, by the way, seizing our money through taxation to do this, put it into the coffers of a known genocidal freak like Netanyahu. It's beholden to them to act so desperately and erratically now because they know in 10 years they might not enjoy this same sort of support from the American government at all, because younger people are shifting away from it. You're seeing the sea change on the right play out now. It's one of the most, source or hope-filled things for me to watch unfold with Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith and Candace Owens hammering the Israeli regime and, telling the truth about how that's not America first whatsoever. These are major influencers, and younger people are adopting those lines of reasoning rather than the Israel first mantra that was put forward and pursued by the neocons. But I do want to hear what you guys have to say about this. Is Mearsheimer right? Do they have blackmail on Trump? What form does it take? And what would explain this Israel first attitude? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Napolitano too. Please consider, if you like this video, to join as a member. You can help support the channel. And in return, I'll give you access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.